Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is a brand new episode of Bets and Banter. And this week on the show, we are talking about UFC Kansas City. It's going down with Ian Machado Garry taking on the ever dangerous Carlos Prates. And it is a very exciting fight. I'm looking forward to breaking down that main event. I'm looking forward to breaking down the entire card. And normally, guys, on Bets and Banter, I'm coming to you with a great guest. Unfortunately, this week, our guy Wizz is not feeling up to it. He's a little bit under the weather, so we're wishing him the best. We're hoping that he feels better soon, but the show must go on. We're going to keep it rolling. Hopefully, I'll come back to you guys later in the week with a guest. We'll try and figure something out, pivot a little bit there. Maybe me and Wizz can reconnect later in the week, but altogether, I just wanted to get something out to you guys as announced for tonight. So without further ado, guys, let's break it down. We'll call this our preliminary look at this card, and we've got Chelsea Chandler taking on Jocelyn Edwards in the first fight of the night. And I think that this is an interesting spot, right? We have on the one hand, Chelsea Chandler, a girl who does not have a very long UFC tenure, but she's 34 years of age. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. I think she's basically a finished product in terms of what we can expect from her, maybe minor improvements, a little bit fight over fight. But one thing that's a real red flag to me coming into this one, and something that I would want to wait for her to step on the scales this week, is because she's missed weight in her last two contests. And for me, that's a big red flag. I don't know if I could trust you. I don't know if you're going out there to really give me 110% on the effort if you're not even going out and beating the first battle, which is making weight on the scale. One thing I'll tell you about the UFC is they do not like people that miss weight traditionally. Why? It jeopardizes matchups. It jeopardizes the flow of the calendar. It can screw over another fighter. So then they're pissed at the organization. Also, it puts the fighter under pressure. Do I want to take this fight now that this opponent has missed weight, now that they're putting me in a compromised situation? Now, you look at her record in the UFC and you say to yourself, okay, she's got 2 losses. That's a little bit concerning, in a short sample size. But Yana Santos, Norma Dumont, when you look at those names, they do stand out as like, wow, these are girls that are tenured in the division, that are frankly like title challenger type girls, right? Yana Santos fought for the belt back in the day, I believe. I think it was a short notice opportunity against Cyborg. Still, you got to give her the credit where it's due, right? When you look at on the Norma Dumont side, she's like, what, 1 win away from fighting for a title in this bantamweight division. So I think that you have to give some credit to the fact she's losing to quality competition. When she went out there against Josiane Nunes, a girl that's very limited in her skill set, but does have power on the feet, does have an ability to win fights like that. She got to some takedowns. She did what she needed to do. I think the problem I have with Chandler is at times she does not show great fight IQ. We've seen her go out there, and again, I mentioned the Nunes fight. She had a massive advantage on the ground. Nunes is a blue belt. She's very, very underwhelming in her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with all due respect, relative to her UFC level peers. And when you look at how Chelsea Chandler did on the ground, she did great, but she was opting to stay on the feet for portions of the fight when I felt that wasn't necessary. The Julija Stoliarenko fight, I mean, that looked more like a mugging than it did like a cage fight. She just absolutely went out there and beat her up, took her money. It was a thug out performance. So I think that when you look at Chelsea Chandler at her best, she can be effective with her ground and pound. She can be, dangerous enough with her skills. She's got, a pedigree in submission grappling. I believe she's a Cesar Gracie girl as well. So she comes from a decent stock. On the other side, let's talk about Jocelyn Edwards, her opponent here, much more tenured in the UFC. She's got a 5-4 record. And what else do we notice about her? She's missing weight too. So why do I want to watch the scales for a fight like this? First of all, first fight of the night, big favorite in the women's side of the game. Have you guys ever heard me come on and pitch big women's favorites? Not very often, right? Few and far between. Really got to be selective with those spots. And it's not like Jocelyn Edwards is setting the world on fire. You've got 2 women who are approximately 500 UFC fighters. Now, I will say over a longer track record against, a pretty decent level of opposition herself. If you look at each one, Tamiris Vidal, I don't really rate her at all in the division. Aylin Perez, I think she's solid. Nora Cornole, I think she's solid. So losing those fights, not too bad. And the Nora Cornole fight, a lot of people thought that was a robbery when that fight took place. And I believe it was in France. I think she got multiple takedowns. The damage versus control criteria, I know it's always going to have people up in arms on both sides. But when she won her fights, all 3 of her last few wins have come when she missed weight. If she makes the weight, if she does the discipline, she doesn't always win. And by the way, Ji on Kim, Lucy Pudilova, Ramona Pascal, they can hardly buy a win together in the UFC. These are not the highest level opponents. So when it comes to girls she's losing to, both these women, they lose to pretty good girls. Now you're kind of getting a clash of two girls that I think are both lower enough level. I say Jocelyn Edwards would be the favorite for me if I was ringing this up, but am I going to make Chelsea Chandler a massive underdog in this spot? Not really, because I think she could have takedown upside herself. Jocelyn Edwards has become much better as a grappler over time. That loss to Jessica Rose Clark, in my opinion, aged very, very poorly. We've seen Jessica Rose Clark. I don't believe she's longer with the promotion. So we cashed several times on fading Jessica Rose Clark as well on the way out. So no disrespect there. I think that this is a well-matched fight. I think both these women, are kind of in a point in their career where they need to make a statement and show whether they want to be professional fighters. What is being a professional? It means you show up, you make weight. And I think that both of them have shown that's a difficult part of the discipline for them. So let's see how they do in Kansas City this weekend. If you said gun to your head, make a pick on this one, I'd say Jocelyn Edwards. If you said, Liam, where's the potential betting value? I would probably look towards the Chelsea Chandler side. She's a underdog in this spot of about plus 240, plus 250, depending on the bookmaker that you look at. And again, this to me just feels like a much more competitive women's fight. I do think Jocelyn Edwards, younger fighter, more dangerous on the feet, a little bit more experience. Those are the things that make me favor her to win. But do I favor her to a really significant degree? I can't say that I do. So ultimately, for the first fight, I think it's a dog or pass situation at the window, but I'm picking the favorite ultimately to get it done in what I think will probably be a closely contested decision. If I had to think about who has finishing upside, I think Jocelyn Edwards could hurt her with strikes. We have seen in the past Chelsea Chandler get buzzed, run away, be in some really awkward situations on the feet. So I do think she's a susceptible striker, but haven't always seen great finishing instincts from Jocelyn Edwards. Did get the job done against Vidal her last time out. And the same with Chelsea Chandler. Doesn't always show the best instincts to put the fight away, but I think that she's been in a lot of good positions. She's had some girls in tough spots. So maybe one of them can break through, but I think both of them still have a lot to prove. And for me, a minus 280 doesn't really jive with that. So, all right, next up, we've got Timothy Cuamba taking on Roberto Romero. Before we get to that fight, guys, I want to shout out the chat. We got It Factor MMA in the building. We've got Rocco saying, let's go. Welcome aboard. KD Montana, very kind. It's the legend himself. You're far too kind, my friend. Just a guy breaking down fights, just like you. Thank you for being here. Nice break last week, but ready for this card. Let's effing go, says Rick the Ruler, and I could not agree more. Needed that off week to get the mind fresh and excited to be back to break down these fights. Now, this is a fight, guys. I'm just going to keep it level with you. Got to do more research on this one. Got to go back and watch more tape on this one. What I could tell you guys about this fight is it's lined close to a pick'em. I've seen this line kind of bouncing a little bit, but ultimately you've got Roberto Romero sitting about a minus 120 favorite in this spot. I think he was minus 122 on FanDuel earlier and like a minus 104 on the comeback for Cuamba. So it's not like you're getting plus money or a big plus money tag on the Cuamba side. It's an essential pick 'em in this spot, maybe slightly into Romero in the market. Ultimately, both these guys are looking to break through for their first UFC win. Timmy Cuamba 0-2 in the promotion, but if you guys recall, we'll go to his Tapology record. He fought Balaji Oki to a competitive split decision. They both had their moments in that fight. If my memory serves, let me go to UFC stats because we always like to talk in facts on this show. So if we go back to the facts here, we've got a Timothy Cuamba who in the fight with Balaji Oki was outlanded 33-60 on significant strikes. However, he was able to get a takedown, a minute 55 seconds of control time, and I believe that is what led to a competitive split decision there. Now, when I look at this decision in hindsight, it looks to me like Balaji Oki clearly did more work substantively from the stat line. Then when you look at his fight against Lucas Almeida dropped him. He outlanded him as well, albeit by a smaller margin. He also outlanded him on total strikes. So we've got a guy in Timothy Cuamba who was outlanded on significant strikes and total strikes in both of his first two UFC fights. And Lucas Almeida, he is 2-3 in the promotion. Balaji Oki, he is 1-1 in the UFC. He got finished by Chris Duncan, if you guys remember. So neither one of those guys are super standout UFC fighters. They're guys that are looking to find their own way. They're guys that are looking to get on track. So for me, I haven't seen a lot from Timothy Cuamba that says he's ready for primetime right now. I think he might even need, if he doesn't get the win here, to take a step back, go to the regional scene, get a little more experience under his belt. He came in young. He came in, without that much experience. And so looking at this, he's still just 26 years of age. On the other side, you got Roberto Romero, a little bit more fighting experience for Romero. He was 6-1-1 in the Combate promotion. He did have a loss shortly before he came over to the UFC via decision. He lost to David Onama, which I could really forgive. That one's up a weight at lightweight. Up a weight at lightweight. Now he's fighting at featherweight. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't speaking out of sorts there. I think Onama's done some fighting at featherweight too, if my memory serves. But in any case, what we're looking at here is, a Timothy Cuamba looking to break through, get his first win. Same thing's true of Roberto Romero. But I thought Roberto Romero, kind of made a very good account of himself when he came in against David Onama. If we look back at that fight, David Onama, 30 years of age, he's 6 years his elder. He was the bigger guy in a huge way. He was a massive favorite, and he wasn't able to finish him. He was able to stay in the fight. He was able to go out there and get after him. And so now if we go back and we look at the other side of this fight, Roberto Romero, he was able to land 74 significant strikes against David Onama, as well as a knockdown against David Onama. And guys, David Onama, pretty tough guy, pretty durable guy. He's been hurt before, but it's because he stays in the pocket. He's looking for kills. He wants to be about that action. And so for me, I'm kind of impressed by the fact that, Roberto Romero was able to do that, make a great account of himself, go out there and really fight hard, up a weight class, show what he's all about. Timothy Cuamba, guys, his ceiling on significant strikes between the Contender Series as well as his 2 fights in the UFC is just 59 significant strikes. And that was against Lucas Almeida, a fight where he got dropped. Now we go back and we look at Roberto Romero, right? Roberto Romero landed 74. So he gets one opportunity. He goes out there and throws more, lands more, gets a knockdown, hurts somebody. Unless this guy just gets summarily out-wrestled, which is what I'll have to go back and look at his tape, see if that's where maybe there's a flaw in his game. Maybe that's where Timmy Cuamba can try and take advantage of him. But ultimately, I'm looking at a guy in this fight, in Timmy Cuamba, I'm just trying to reroute my page here. I'm looking at a guy in Timmy Cuamba who at 26 years of age could have lost his last 3 fights. That Mateo Vogel fight was very close and competitive. If my memory serves, I believe he was outlanded in that fight as well. If you go back and look, Mateo Vogel landed 67 significant strikes, 82 total strikes to just 44 from Timothy Cuamba. He also had 4 minutes of control. It's kind of insane from the stat line that he won that fight. So I'll have to go back and watch and see what went wrong there for Mateo Vogel. Maybe it was front loaded. He did a great job in one round, kind of tired out down the stretch, and it's, judged by each round. But I just can't remember that fight very distinctly off the top of my head. I think I remember thinking Mateo Vogel was live to submit him, and he didn't do it. So, hey, hats off to Timmy Cuamba, maybe better submission defense than I thought. But ultimately, I don't know what really separates these two guys, except for the fact that I think Roberto Romero is a little bit more heavy-handed, and I think he's probably a little bit more willing to go out there and throw volume, push out offense, give the judges something to look at. So for those reasons, in a closely lined fight, I'm going to side with the guy that the market's leaning with. That's Roberto Romero to come through with the victory. One of these guys is going to get their first UFC win. So good luck to both of them, but I'm going with Roberto Romero for my pick. Next up, we've got Jacqueline Amorim. And also, guys, I just want to say these picks are a little bit subject to change, right? If I go back and do the tape study and I realize this guy can't wrestle at all, I'm going to be changing that pick in the article. But I'm just trying to give you guys a clear understanding of where I see betting value as opposed to who I'm picking to win fights in my earliest iteration of my breakdown. So I hope that you guys can appreciate that process. But in any case, guys, let's get back into the action where Jacqueline Amorim is taking on Polyana Viana. And I don't track, offshore openers or anything like that. But I did send in the Patreon a while back, Jacqueline Amorim just opened like -200 or something against Polyana Viana. I was like, there is no way that line is going to stick around. You can grab that if you have offshores. And that line got absolutely destroyed, right? It's now like -600 or something. Let's go check what the actual odds are right now. Minus 800 on Bet Online for Jacqueline Amorim, plus 550 the comeback on Polyana Viana. And what is the explanation here, guys? Why are you seeing, this massive, gulf in the odds between these two women? I think that when you look at these two women, what jumps out on paper? Polyana Viana has just a 38% takedown defense. That is going to be a real problem against a girl like Jacqueline Amorim, who has a 1.78 takedowns per 15-minute average, and she is a jiu-jitsu world champion. So basically, we've got Polyana Viana. She normally gets blown over with a stiff gust of wind if somebody's trying to take her down. And on the other side, Jacqueline Amorim. Oh, somebody said lost audio. Let me make sure that we are all good here. Let me make sure that's not on my end. So according to, okay. Cade says maybe it was just me. According to my audio settings, it's showing that my mic's still going. So if anybody else in the chat could sound off, I would really appreciate it. Curtis says you're good. All right, we're pushing through. Cade, no worries, brother. Thank you for the heads up anyway. All right, here we go, guys. We're back at it. Jacqueline Amorim, what does she bring to the table? As far as I'm concerned, the way that she wins this fight is pretty straightforward. She goes out there, she pursues takedowns, she gets after her offense. She's got good ground and pound against Montserrat Conejo, plus 1,600, I believe was the price on Amorim via KO. Cash that. We were very excited. We saw a lot of opportunities, guys. In round one, she was beating her up from the top position, gift wrapping, looking for submissions, but not forcing them. She was doing a great job throwing a lot of ground and pound, asserting herself from the top position, and I really like to see that. Jacqueline Amorim basically went out there in Miami, UFC debut, taking on Sam Hughes. I didn't bet on that fight because she was a big favorite, and I said to myself, man, this is a tough look to come in because Sam Hughes is tough. She's not going to give it up easy. You know that she's gritty. So I picked Amorim to win that one, but I stayed away from a betting perspective. And Sam Hughes was able to grit it out. She had to hold on to the glove. She had to do every old trick in the book, but she survived. Amorim got frustrated. She got upset, and she got defeated in that fight by losing rounds 2 and 3. What I think that we've seen Amorim do is now she comes out there with a much better game plan, a much better understanding of how she wins fights, which is get on top of people and make them suffer. We saw Polyana Viana in her recent fight get absolutely smashed with ground and pound. And I don't think that it's past happening again here. We know that Amorim can get on top and beat people up. I think she's live to win this fight by all methods. I think that's why she's become such a massive favorite. I do think everybody's going to click the sub this week. I think Polyana Viana can be submitted for sure, but I also think that she can be TKO'd. I think she can be decisioned, 30-27. I remember I took minus 110 on Tabitha Ricci. It was one of the easiest bets of all time. Tabitha Ricci was just standing above her, kicking her with low kicks from half the distance across the octagon, and Polyana Viana didn't have a clue whether she wanted to get up, play from the ground. She was very frustrated in that fight. So if you look at the pictures she's been posting from training, it does look like she's still got that interest in fighting enough that she's willing to get punched in the face, get after it. But even in her training footage, she's got blood all over her mouth guard, right? Like this girl, take some damage. And I think that that's something that you got to watch out for in this fight. The one thing I will say, how do you credit Polyana Viana here? How do you give her a pathway to victory? I mean, number one, she's a long fighter. She's a big fighter. If the fight stays exclusively on the feet, she's much more likely to be a comfortable fighter. So does Amorim have decent power on her overhand right? Yeah. Does she have, some ability to mix in kicks? Sure. But is she a striker? No. Polyana Viana is very comfortable striking. She's got knockouts pre-UFC, knocked out Amanda Hebos. That was one of the early indications that Amanda didn't have a great chin, but Polyana put it on her, right? She hurt her badly in that fight, got the finish. How about Jinh Yu Frey? I thought that Jinh Yu Frey was a little bit chinny coming in there. I also thought that more importantly, Polyana had a big advantage on the grappling, in my opinion, in that fight, but she knocked her out with like the first punch. So Polyana is long. She's aggressive. She comes out throwing. But if you're good on the ground, you have a clear path to victory. So I won't belabor the point here. I think this is Amorim. I think it's Amorim inside the distance more often than not, but I think she can win this however she wants. I think Polyana is probably drawing dead to the KO here. So that's kind of the way I see this one. All right. Next up, guys, we got Cameron Saaiman taking on Malcolm Wellmaker. And Wellmaker is a very interesting case study, guys. He's a guy that was a pipe fitter, blue collar, right? A very humble, down-to-earth guy, great story, but a hard worker, 8-0 as a professional, looks very dangerous. You watch how composed he was, how smooth he was, how he had different phases of fighting. If you guys have watched this show for a long time, one thing you'll hear me talk about is I don't always love when a guy is 24, 23, 22 coming into these fights. It has to be the right circumstance. It has to be the right scenario because a lot of these guys aren't finished with their physical development. And I think Cameron Saaiman has been the victim of getting to the highest level a little too early. He's been taking his licks as a result. When he stepped up in competition, most especially, we've seen a lot of difficulty for him. So I think that Cameron Saaiman, I question a little bit where his confidence is going to be at, where his, where his head's going to be at coming into this fight, right? Because you look at the guy, and we'll pull up his Tapology just so everybody can get a clear look. He starts off very hot in the UFC. He comes out beating Josh Wang Kim on the Contender Series, knocks him out. Great win. Josh Wang Kim, not a UFC level guy, but hey, he showed he was ready, right? Then you see I didn't say was. I didn't say was. If I did, it was a mistake of the tongue, a slip of the tongue by me. He still is. So he's still a pipe fitter. I was trying to allude to that, but if I misspoke, I apologize. In any case, you look at the other wins, right? Manny Martinez, a guy who had a cup of coffee in the UFC, but had a difficult time sticking around. Terrence Mitchell, an Alaska FC guy, a guy that really struggled in the UFC, got knocked out by Raul Rosas Jr. in the first round as well. So you look at the losses that he has, right? 2 losses in a row. Losing to Christian Rodriguez, that's no skin off your nose, right? Christian is a good fighter, a very dangerous guy who's skilled in all positions. But Christian was teeing him up with big knees, and he was kind of big brothering him a little bit in some of those grappling exchanges. And he was showing, what a difficult guy he could be to deal with. And we kind of saw that Cameron Saaiman, good fighter, has skills, can touch you, can land some shots, but he can get hit. He can get cracked. He's there on the returns. You could find him with big shots. You can mix in some grappling and put him in some danger. So I don't think he's a bad fighter at all. But the fight that's really alarming is the Peyton Talbot fight where, Peyton Talbot looked like he was in the Matrix in that fight. He just was styling on him, in every position, landing everything you wanted, touched this, that way, and the other. And Talbot was able to take the shots that were coming back. So respect to Talbot, right? He had a chin in that one too, was willing to walk him down, no respect. But at the end of the day, he just absolutely smashed him to bits. It was barely needed a second round there, right? So now he's got to come back and take on a guy in Malcolm Wellmaker on the other side. If you look at Wellmaker, what does he have right now? A lot of confidence, right? He's coming in. It's a UFC debut. So could he have debut jitters? Absolutely. But he was 1-0 on Contender Series with a big knockout over a much more experienced guy in Adam Bramhold. Then you look back at his regional scene run. This is a guy that has 6 stoppage wins, 2 via submission, 4 via knockout. So I think that this is the kind of fighter that has a few different paths to victory. He's never tasted defeat. You're going to have to teach him how to lose. And I think he's got confidence. I think he's got hunger. And he's 30 years of age, guys. So he's ready to go right now, in my opinion. He's got to move as a prospect right now. Cameron Saaiman, on the other hand, he's young. He could be rebuilt. We can figure out another path forward for Cameron Saaiman. Maybe it's the weight class. Maybe it's this. I think there's a lot of different things that you could tweak with a Cameron Saaiman over time and get him to where he's going. But the fight's on Saturday. And I think Malcolm Wellmaker right now, I think he's got the confidence. I think he's got the ability. I think he's got the danger factor. I think he's got the momentum. Everything's rolling right now for Malcolm Wellmaker. And Saaiman fought a very good level of competition in his losses, no doubt about that. But in his wins, I just don't really rate those guys on the same level as a Malcolm Wellmaker. So for me, I think Wellmaker gets the job done here. I don't know how he gets it done. I got to tape this one a little bit deeper, but my gut says Malcolm Wellmaker is going to win his UFC debut and let people know that he's arrived in the UFC. So let's see how it goes. Should be a great fight. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Cade Garrison says, I think Wellmaker is the favorite here because of the finishing upside. I understand where you're coming from. He's a dangerous guy. And I think that if this fight goes the distance, it might be close, but I just feel like Malcolm has that winning quality about him. He's going to try and do whatever it takes to win. So let's see how it shakes out, man. Everybody has something to prove in their UFC debut, and he's doing it in front of a crowd as well. So Kansas City's going to be rocking. Let's see if Malcolm Wellmaker can get the job done for the blue-collar Americans out there. All right, next up, we got Blackshear taking on Alateng, and this should be an interesting fight. A lot of people are counting out Alateng in this one, and it's interesting because if you look at their records in the UFC, they're actually quite similar, right? I think Blackshear is like 4-3-1 in the promotion, maybe fought a touch level better of competition, but on the other side, Alateng Haley, I think he's like 5-2-1 in the UFC, like pretty good record, and he's a guy that pretty durable as well, right? If you look back over the course of his career, we'll start with Alateng, the massive underdog in this spot. He's 5-2-1 as a professional in the UFC. Like I said, never finished in the UFC. His finished losses all predate his run with the promotion. So he had 3 TKO losses back early on in his career. And I think the most recent one was in 2017 against Kai Asakura, another UFC level fighter. So no skin off your nose there. And then he was knocked out all the way back in 2014. So I can forgive those losses early on in your pro MMA career when you're really not of that ilk. He got submitted by an 0-0 guy back in 2015. But at this stage of the game, he's beating Clayton Rodriguez. He's beating Chadden Hellinger. He's beating Kevin Kroom. And the guys he's losing to, Chris Gutierrez, Casey Kenny, those are solid guys. Casey Kenny's kind of a scumbag, right? In terms of what happened to him post UFC, but ultimately he was a very good cage fighter. And so Alateng, he got beat up in that fight. He's never really outlanded anybody in terms of, his significant strikes. That's not really his game. If you go back and look, we can go ahead and pull up UFC stats here once again to make sure that we have our facts. He has a negative striking differential. So does Blackshear. The difference is Alateng has basically no striking accuracy, right? He just defends shots pretty well, right? He's hard enough to hit. He does get hit a little bit more than Blackshear, but defends 57% of the shots thrown at him. And then he goes out there and he gets takedowns. He's got a 75% takedown defense rate, averages 1.9 takedowns. And Blackshear averages 1.8. So very, very similar takedown numbers for these guys. The accuracy better for Alateng. The takedown defense rate slightly lower for Blackshear. He attempts subs at a higher rate. He's a more dangerous submission grappler. But Alateng never been submitted in the UFC. So I don't know. I think this is an interesting fight. Alateng's 33 years of age, right? Not getting any younger in this bantamweight division. Blackshear, I thought came very close to beating Mario Bautista. Super close fight on short notice for him. So at his best, this guy's shown really good glimpses, right? He also went out there against Yusuf Zalal and put on a very good performance before gassing out horribly in the third round and nearly getting finished by Yusuf Zalal in a comeback storm. So I think that when we see this guy, Blackshear, he's definitely a dangerous guy, but I don't know if I fully trust his cardio. And I do think he's going to have to work really hard to wrestle in this spot. So I think Alex was pretty sharp on saying Blackshear by KO. I think that if he wins this fight and makes it look easy, that's probably the way he gets it done. Using the fact that he's the taller fighter, the longer fighter, keep him at distance with the jab. He's the younger fighter as well. Guy's got a couple KO losses on his record. I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're looking for the Blackshear side, maybe look at a finish prop. Maybe look at a what's it called? KO prop to get a little bit off the big chalky price. But when I look at Alateng, 5-2-1 is not a resume that you normally see as like a massive underdog, right? A plus 3XX underdog. So Blackshear, it's not like he's lights out every performance. It's not like he's the most consistent guy in the division. I feel like sometimes we see Blackshear show up and maybe look a twinge off, maybe not look like himself. I thought the Cody Gibson fight is an example of that. He won that fight, but did he look super clean? Did he look super dominant? He was able to rally when Cody gassed himself out, but Cody was having success on the feet. He kind of forced the wrestling when he didn't need to. So Alateng, he's a well-schooled guy. He's a tough guy, and I just don't think he's going to make this easy for Blackshear unless he gets clipped. So anybody can get clipped. He got clipped in 2017 by Kai Asakura. Could definitely happen here, but ultimately, I look at a guy like Blackshear, and I just don't see at a 16-7-1 record as a professional, massive favorite. And I bet Cody Gibson. I thought he fought a really bad game plan and didn't look great, but also had moments, and I thought he could have won that first round. So, ultimately, I just lean towards a dog or pass situation at the window. I'm picking Blackshear to get this one done, but I think the price is very prohibitive here. Foop that at this number. I like Haley, says Rick the Ruler. I like Blackshear, or I think Blackshear is overrated. He will lose as a favorite very soon. I think that's very fair. Press the like button, says Alex Ramirez. I hope that you guys do that. We're talking about the prelims right now for UFC Kansas City. If you guys are enjoying, then make sure you go ahead and hit the like button. Get subscribed to the channel. If you're new here, guys, hit that bell for notifications so you know every time that we go live. And with that being said, guys, we can move along to the next fight on the card where we've got Chris Gutierrez taking on Zhang Castaneda. Oh, God. Rebooked fight. The first time that this fight was booked, I picked Castaneda based on the fact that he's a little younger. I like his pressuring style. I thought he could mix in some wrestling. But when you're looking at this fight, first of all, Castaneda pulled out of the last booking between these guys. I believe it was for the UFC 313 prelims. This fight was originally scheduled. Castaneda pulled out with an illness. Don't know if that was weight cut related or not, but in any case, fight gets scrapped. So now they've got a little bit more time to prepare. They've got a little bit more time to scout and game plan. And admittedly, we've got a guy in Zhang Castaneda who's talented and has a well-rounded skill set, but eventually you are who the record says you are. And he's 4-3 in the UFC, 33 years of age. So he really needs to start stepping on the gas to prove something right now. If he wants to get to, the top level, if he wants to break through, start getting to bigger fights and really take a step up in his career. And on the other side, Chris Gutierrez, he's had some of those steps up. He's been in those big spots and big opportunities. He's kind of fallen flat in some of those. The main event against Song Yadong, really frustrating performance from him, from Song as well, kind of just a lackluster main event. And when you look back at that, I'm sure Chris was super frustrated. He couldn't really get up. He was stuck in the bottom position. And that's definitely a path here for Zhang Castaneda, who's the underdog, to go out here, use his Minnesota Academy wrestling background, go out there and take this guy down and make him work and put some pace on him like Cody Durden did, a flyweight on short notice, did that, 10-8'd him in the first round, took him down. But ultimately, if you don't take down Gutierrez, he just has a very clear path to winning decisions, right? He's got a very long track record in decisions, much better than his opponent here, Zhang Castaneda. And I think that when you look at what Chris Gutierrez brings to the table, the low kicks are phenomenal. And so if John is, not on his P's and Q's, if he's not keeping very diligent footwork, I think he's going to be getting that calf torn apart a little bit in this fight. So for me, it's a tricky fight to call, but the thing that's making me kind of switch my gut lean towards the Gutierrez side is, number one, he didn't pull out of that last fight. It was Castaneda for some health concerns. And number two, I'm just looking back at these proven records in the UFC. And when there's a big body of work, I like to look at that. And Chris Gutierrez is 9-3-1 in the promotion. That's a fantastic record in the UFC over a long period of time. And his wins aren't all the best, but again, 9-3-1. The losses are pretty quality. The one draw, he comes back and clearly wins round 2 and 3. Left no doubt about that. So, man, I think that Chris Gutierrez is just a more proven product in the UFC. But at 34 years of age, where's his motivation at? What exactly is he going to bring to the table here? I think that's where you can call it into question. Is he going to be able to stop the takedowns? That's the essential question of this matchup. But I think if he is, it's going to be his fight to lose on the feet. So with that being said, give me Chris Gutierrez as the pick, but it's a very, very hesitant pick. I doubt I will see $1 on this fight at the end of the day. I don't like rebooked fights, and especially in this one, I didn't have the strongest lean to begin with. Now I'm kind of feeling like my gut is reversing. I picked Castaneda in my article the first time. Now I'm kind of leaning towards Gutierrez. For me, it's a total pass. All right, next up, a fight I'm really fascinated to talk about, guys. I hit up, if you guys don't follow at MMA Underrated, I'm going to encourage you guys to do that right now at MMA Underrated on X. If you guys are on that platform, this guy just posts a ton of great fight videos, right? MMA Underrated is what the name says it is, right? It's like he's just posting these videos of underrated MMA fights, and a lot of them are classics, right? It'll bring you back. It'll be like, wow, I forgot that fight. What a great fight. And sometimes when I'm looking for footage, I end up using something that he's posted before. So shout out to our guy. And I wanted to just say, I hit him up earlier to request, put Gage Young and Quillen Salkild on that page, because that was a banger of a fight, man. I don't know if those guys got enough credit for going out there and just putting their balls on the table, fighting like men. It was a great fight, man. Those two guys scrapped. They brought it, and they showed a modern mixed martial arts approach, right? It wasn't zombies in the pocket, just trade, just go crazy. It was smart. It was tactical. It was aggressive. It was active. There was constant activity. Both guys were trying to win. They tried to dog it out. They tried to be smart. They tried to be tactical. They just did a lot of things right. There was kicking, there was punching, there was elbows, there was knees, there was takedowns, there was grappling. What more could you ask for? It's a mixed martial arts fight. And so I was really fired up that Gage Young got this opportunity. I said at the time when he was on Contender Series, I don't know if he's going to win this fight against Salkeld, because Salkeld's good, but I think he'll be back. And, when I'm looking at this fight, man, he's another guy, Missouri tough, both these guys, right? You got Evan Elder, and then you got Gage Young, a Kansas City guy, man. He's coming up on this regional scene. He's a tough kid. And I think when you look at Gage Young, you got to give him some respect for the power that he's got in his hands, man. Quillen Salkeld was feeling that power a couple of times. Quillen Salkeld was feeling those high kicks. He was feeling those hooks around the guard. He was letting them know in the corner, like, yeah, this guy's getting to me. He's pressuring me. He's landing some stuff. And this is my sincere belief. After just rewatching this fight tonight, I think that you could make an argument that Gage Young did more damage in the first and second round of that fight against Quillen Salkeld. Now, that being said, I think on the volume of activity, the work rate, I understand why Quillen deserved the win there. He did more. He fought harder through every position, got the takedowns, mixed it up. Like, you just got to take your hat off to the kid. His pace was sensational, right? But that was a really, really, really good pace. That was really, really good stuff from him. I don't know that a lot of guys could replicate that. Like, they fought at an insane pace. Gage Young defended a lot of takedowns. He did a good job D'ing up those takedowns, fighting them off. And you saw Quillen being so smart, ripping kicks to the body, throwing big punches to the body. I will say, what is so compelling about this matchup? Evan Elder is going to bring some of those same skills to the table. Evan Elder rips body kicks. Evan Elder sits down on hard counters. But here's the dynamic of this fight as far as I see it. Evan Elder is a guy that can be backed up. He can be pressured. And I think Gage Young is going to pressure him. I think he's going to back him up. I don't think Gage Young is the kind of guy that's afraid to engage with anybody. I think he's going to come out there and try and walk into this guy. Now, when you look at Gage Young, he's fought at 175 catchweights. He's fought at 145 as an amateur, as a pro. This guy's been all around in terms of weight, but he's 5'9", 70-inch reach, very similar metrics to Evan Elder. He's a younger guy. So Evan Elder, maybe a little bit more of that man strength. He's got some UFC experience under his belt, right? Not his first rodeo. Gage Young going to be fighting in front of a crowd. Maybe he's got that adrenaline dump. You got to concern yourself with some of these things. But Evan Elder, in my view, you go back and watch that Nazim Sadikov fight. A lot of people want to write that off and say, it's just a bad run out for Evan Elder. But for me, I did start circling some red flags in that fight because, in my opinion, you listen into the corner, right? One of the beautiful things about Fight Pass, you get to listen back to the corners, right? And I'm hearing in the corner, Evan, big, deep breaths after the first round. Him and Nazim both hurt each other really bad in that first round. And again, another sensational fight. If you're looking for a fight to go rewatch tonight, just want some entertainment, go put on Evan Elder, Nazim Sadikov. You watch them beat the tar out of each other. Great fight, really fun scrap. Both guys landed good shots. And when I look at this, I'm saying, like, Evan Elder's strong. He's tough. He's pretty durable overall. Like, you could hurt him, but he'll try and get back into it. He's a tough kid. The thing that I'm worried about here, and I say tough kid, he's a little bit older than me, but the joke being, right, he's a tough guy, right? He's a tough man. And both these guys, I feel like, have some similarities in that regard. They're both dog tough. They both have some well-rounded skills, and they both are going to really want it on Saturday. The thing I like about Gage Young is typically he shows up in pretty good condition. In that Contender Series fight, Quillen's pace really got to him a little bit towards the end, right? I would say round 3 was the toughest round for him there. There were some bad moments in a few rounds, but he had some really good moments too. At the end of round 2, he's walking him down. He's landing big shots. He's pressuring, and Quillen was not enjoying it at all. And what have we seen him do? to respond from that, right? He goes back to the regional scene and another brutal knockout for Gage Young. So he's got power in those hands. He's got power in those elbows. He's got power in those head kicks. And I think that those are all tools that Evan Elder is going to have to respect. Nazim Sadikov was connecting with head kicks. Nazim Sadikov was connecting with elbows. Evan Elder was doing the same thing. So if you're going to make it a macho contest, a tough man contest, see who's the tougher guy, you might find out the hard way on that night, right? Somebody could get clipped. If we're just standing there banging it out, somebody could get clipped and go down. And I think Gage Young's got that kind of power. Nazim Sadikov clipped him over the top of a jab, hurt him really bad with a hook. I think Gage Young's got the skills to do that. So for me, this is an interesting fight. I respect Evan Elder's game. And I think that when you look at Trap Lord in the comments, I think this is prescient. He says this is a much tougher matchup for Evan Elder than the pedo, and I totally agree. Innocent until proven guilty in the United States of America. I don't want to be sued, all alleged at this point, but Ahmad Hassanzada pulled from the card instantly. Horrible accusations leveled against him. Good riddance as far as I'm concerned. I tweeted back when he was on Contender Series, Hassan Frauda. There's a lot of other things you could have put instead of fraud to fill in the gap there. When you look back, Evan Elder was going to have a much easier time, in my view, in that fight, having success on the feet. In this fight, I think the path for Evan Elder would be a little different. Evan mixes in a lot of takedown attempts in his fights, and I think Gage Young is very comfortable banging it out on the feet for 15 minutes. But I do think that the way you get to his gas tank is trying to wrestle him, trying to gas him out there. The problem is, I'm pretty convinced that at the 8-minute mark of that Nazim Sadikov fight, Evan Elder was exhausted. He was on fumes. He was wrestling himself into a hole, and he was not looking as good. So for me, I kind of think that what happened in the third round obscured the fact that Nazim was starting to get his wind, and this guy was starting to break down a little bit in fatigue. And I think that this is the kind of spot where, number one, Gage Young, he's tough, he's reckless, he's willing to put it all on the line, he's hard to put away. So if he gets put away here, I think you're going to have to tap him. I think you're going to have to put him in a really bad situation. But I don't think Evan Elder has shown me the best finishing instincts. I've seen him, hurt guys and maybe not be able to put him away. You think of the Genaro Valdez fight, landed some damaging shots. The Nazim fight landed some damaging shots, never really came close to finishing Nazim. So when I think about how Gage Young is going to interact in this fight, I think he can compete if this fight hits the scorecards. I think that he can go out there and probably prevent a lot of the takedowns here. I was impressed by his takedown defense against Quillen Salkeld. I just thought that, Quillen overwhelmed him a little bit with activity. Evan Elder is a lot more easy to back up towards the fence, and he likes to sit down on hard counters, man. He might catch Gage with one of those, man. He sits down on them with conviction, but I just don't think that Gage Young is going to be put off by that. I think he's willing to get in his face. I wouldn't be surprised if Gage Young mixes in a takedown of his own in this fight. Both these guys know how to wrestle. I think Evan's a little bit more physical, but Nazim Sadikov was able to take him down by just getting him a little fatigued. Once Evan Elder was a little tired, he was able to take him down. He was able to get on top a little bit. So I think that you look at where Gage Young is at. He's still very young in his career, taking this fight on short notice. It's a big ask, but if this kid is showing up in shape like I expect him to, I think he's going to go out there and give Evan Elder an honest run for his money. So that's the way I see it, man. I think Gage Young is a guy that people don't know yet, but I think they're going to know who he is. Like, I think he's a serious guy that really wants to be here. And do I think that he's going to be a top 10 guy in the UFC? No, he's still got a lot to prove there, but it's like, do I think this guy could win UFC fights? I truly do. I thought he could when he was on Contender Series, and he hasn't given me any reason to doubt that. I thought the Quillen Salkeld fight was very good, and I think Quillen Salkeld has a future in the top 15. So for me, this is Elder's got some stuff still to prove to me, right? He's 2-2 in the UFC. Darius Flowers, guys, gassed out in a minute and a half in that fight. What the hell am I supposed to learn from that? Darius Flowers is shooting into guard pulls, a minute and a half into that fight. I don't know. Like, I don't, if Gage Young ever does something like that, I'd be stunned. I've never seen anything like that from him. So for me, this is a much more difficult fight than Genaro Valdez, than Darius Flowers, right? I think this is a lot closer to a Nazim Sadikov, a Preston Parsons, like, again, in terms of skill level. So let's see how it shakes out. Let's see how it shakes out, man. I think This for me is where Evan Elder's got some proving to do, and I think Gage Young is ready to come and make this an honest fight. All right, let's go to the next one, folks. Oh, goodness. We clicked into a rabbit hole there. Oh, next up, I'm excited to talk about this one. We have Matt Schnell, Danger Schnell, taking on Jimmy the Brick Flick. Guys, both these guys retired at one point in their career. They're both back in the octagon now. Matt Schnell is the one who's off a more recent retirement. He retired. If you guys remember, it's one of the worst clips. Chris Taioni, like I'm sure he's a nice guy, right? Everybody says, oh, he's a nice guy. No, trust me, he's a nice guy. It was like the most sadistic thing I've ever heard him say. He's like, just wait till you see, your head bounce off the mat. He's like, I don't know what was worse, him hitting you or you hitting your head off the mat. Like, it was just like a crazy thing to say to a guy who's literally just recovering from being knocked out. Matt Schnell was just on the ground, unconscious. So I was like, what on earth are you doing? This is a guy in Matt Schnell who's 6-7 in the UFC, and I believe he's been finished in all 7 of those losses in the promotion. He's been TKO'd 5 times, I think. He's been submitted twice, and he was submitted as well by Tim Elliott on the Ultimate Fighter. So this is a guy in Matt Schnell who basically gets finished very frequently, and when I look at his game, I'm really not impressed. Like, I think he's got a decent enough boxing game. I don't think he's got a tremendous amount of pop. He's got a little bit of pop. I think he hurt Roy Val. I think he might have stung. I'm trying to think who else. Maybe one other guy that I can remember. He kind of stung somebody with his boxing. But ultimately, I'm not super impressed by the game of Matt Schnell, and I never have been. I think he's got one of the worst chins in the history of the division. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm always trying to call it the way I see it. If you're talking about other guys who are right up there with him, Jimmy Flick is there, right? He doesn't have the best chin you've ever seen, but a lot of the losses for Jimmy Flick kind of make sense in hindsight. You're like, man, he couldn't get the takedowns going, and this guy's just got way better striking than him. So he picked him apart, and Jimmy eventually either capitulated or, got finished, right? Just got hurt, got knocked out. Matt Schnell, his chin is actually really alarming, right? Like, Hector Sandoval couldn't believe that he knocked him out. He's doing 6-inch hammer fists to get a little space, and Matt Schnell's just laying unconscious on the ground. Absolute insanity. Like, one of the craziest things that you'll ever see in MMA. I've been watching the sport for a long time. The guy couldn't believe it. The ref couldn't believe it. I don't know if Matt Schnell could believe it. You look at the losses that he has. Steve Ursa, guys, has 1 UFC knockdown. It's against Matt Schnell. You could go through the list and start going through a lot of guys have their one real great highlight against Matt Schnell. And I can't put any trust nor faith in this man. And when you got a guy who just retired, when you got a guy with a losing record in the UFC, and he's minus 300 in a cage fight, it is a dog or pass situation just about every time. The guy's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He gets finished every time that he fights. He gets hurt in every fight. Okay, how about this? We got a common opponent between these two guys in Cody Durden. How did that turn out for them? One guy got submitted by Cody Durden. One guy submitted Cody Durden in the first round. So again, when I look at Jimmy Flick, does Jimmy Flick stand out to me as the world's best fighter? No, but he goes out there against Kentucky tough Nate Maness, who, by the way, should have never been cut from the promotion. What is Nate Maness? 5-2-1 in the UFC with a handful of finishes. He's got submissions, he's got knockouts. What does Nate Maness have to do to earn a second contract with the UFC? Complete fucking bullshit. But in any case, Nate Maness goes out there and he tries to put away Jimmy Flick. He tries to land his shots. He tries to do his damage. And what happened? Jimmy Flick gets a takedown in the first round. He gets to top half guard. He controls him. He goes in round 2. He gets a decent guillotine pull. He tries to go for it. Couldn't finish it. Nate Maness, long, awkward neck. He's been submitted one time in professional MMA, and it was Tagir Ulanbekov, caught him with a ninja choke early on. Then you look at, okay, what is Jimmy Flick going to do in this fight? I can tell you, in every fight that he's basically ever had in his career, he's going to go out there to try and push the wrestling and the grappling. The guy's 15-0 career to the submission. So what do I have? I have a guy who has never said uncle when he's going out there to grapple. 15-0 career to the submission. And I got a guy in Matt Schnell who's 9-3 career to the submission. Right? Matt Schnell is not beating guys of a commensurate level of Jimmy Flick. He's not submitted somebody as good as Jimmy Flick in my view. So Jimmy Flick can actually wrestle. You've seen him put in a submission attempt or two. Nate Maness got a ninja choke or two, and he arm drags his way out of it. He's a high-level guy. He understands positions in grappling. Really knows what he's doing. Matt Schnell has a beautiful triangle series. He's used it against a lot of low-level guys. He's got a handful of arm bars. he's been guillotined like 3 or 4 times, and it's been happening since early on in his career. He's doing the 2-hand tap and trying to get himself out of there when Brandon Royval strapped that thing on. So as far as I'm concerned, man, like there's just a lot more danger for Matt Schnell if this fight is in the grappling phase than Jimmy Flick. I think both guys have some skills. Like, I'm not saying Matt Schnell doesn't know how to fight. He does know how to fight. But think about that Suma Darcy fight. The only fight he's won in his last 5, he time traveled like 4 times. He got knocked down in that fight. It's a minor miracle it wasn't stopped. So he would be on a 5-fight losing streak, and instead of having a retirement that he chose, it probably would have been the promotion saying, hey, you have to retire. We're afraid of your brain giving out inside the octagon. And I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm saying the guy has been TKO'd 5 times in the octagon. He's been off-switched. He's been hurt really badly. So I don't trust his chin. I don't trust his grappling against Jimmy Flick. Why is he minus 300? For me, it doesn't make sense, and I'm just going to leave it there. I'm actually thinking that Jimmy Flick is my pick to win this fight. So that's the way it goes. All right, next up, we got Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. This is one where Ikram Aliskerov kind of had the world in front of him. He's taking on Robert Whittaker. You know, we saw what Khamzat Chimaev was able to do with that opportunity, seized it. Now everybody wants to see him fight for the title. And meanwhile, Ikram, you could almost tell he didn't want it, right? The night before the fight, they're like interviewing the guy. I had already wrote up my article, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you got this Russian cat. Only loss is Khamzat Chimaev. He's going to be very confident going in here against Robert Whittaker. He's going to know the plan is to go out there and wrestle. And instead, I see the interview right before, the fight night, and he's like, I'm thankful for the opportunity, and, I'll try my best. I was like, oh, God, this might not turn out so great. And so it ended up not working out for Ikram at all there, right? Robert smashed him in the first round, and it was very similar in a lot of ways to the Khamzat Chimaev result. Khamzat Chimaev was going out there like he always does, guys. What does he do? Looks for takedowns relentlessly, attempts offense, wrestle. Ikram Aliskerov D'd up all those takedowns from Khamzat Chimaev, and people were like, oh, shit, is this the time where, Khamzat Chimaev is going to get exposed? And then Khamzat Chimaev was like, you know what, hold this, and just gave him an uppercut from just south of Hades and crumpled him. And Robert Whittaker took shades of that and threw a big uppercut and absolutely folded him up. So if Andre Muniz knows what's good for him, in camp, he's been working that uppercut all the time, baby. But all jest aside, Andre Muniz is a fantastic grappler, a very, very good black belt. He's a dangerous, dangerous guy. But the truth is, he's run very hot in the UFC. 6'2", I believe, is his results. Some of his performances have been ugly. Uriah Hall, he basically had his back the whole fight, wasn't able to put him away. Kind of gutted out one against Jun Young Park, but that one easily could have went the other way. Didn't do very much in terms of damage. The loss to Paul Craig, not a really great look, in my humble opinion. So there's definitely been some flaws with Andre Muniz, Brendan Allen as well. If you could meet him in the grappling phase, he tends to struggle. So that's what I think is his problem in this matchup. That's why I think he's installed as a massive underdog here. The problem I have is Ikram, coming in with no momentum here. Where's his confidence at? Where's his head at? I think this is a winnable fight. I think the UFC tried to do something right by him to give him a winnable fight, but Andre Muniz is still a world-class black belt, and I don't know that I trust Ikram Aliskerov if they get into a grappling exchange. I think that his wrestling and grappling is solid. I think it's very good, in fact, right? Offensively, his jiu-jitsu, very dangerous, right? The Kimura is beautiful, but against a lot of lower-level guys, and Muniz is just not that, right? He broke Jacare's arm in half. This guy can really play for keeps on the ground. So the thing about it is you got a younger guy, a guy who I think is a little bit more physical in Ikram, but he's smaller in terms of the height and reach. I think he's probably got better cardio, but it's just an awkward fight for me. So I lean Ikram here. I would even make him a big favorite just based on the fact that I think he could probably D up the takedowns and knock him the fuck out. But at the end of the day, Andre Muniz is still a quality fighter in his own right. And at 35 years of age, I don't think he's ancient. He's got way more pro MMA experience, more UFC experience as well. So you got to give some credit to Muniz. The problem is a lot of KO losses, kind of adding up at this point in his career. And he hasn't really shown the most danger factor. So that guys don't really respect him as much on the feet. His kickboxing isn't horrible. It's just a little slow and his defense isn't there. So I don't think that he can really engage with Ikram confidently in the kickboxing phase. And ultimately, that's why I pick Ikram to win the fight and probably do it via knockout. But it could be an awkward decision. And if somebody wins by submission, I think it's more likely to be Muniz. But I think Ikram's path to doing it is cardio, right? Fatigue him, get him tired down the stretch, and then maybe tap him out. All right, guys. Next up, we got a very fascinating fight. Rude Boy, Randy Brown, is taking on Nicholas Dalby. And now we're going to go to, hold on one second. Let's see if I have this right. Bam. All right, now we've got the purple background here, and we'll spice things up a little bit. We got main card action. Rude Boy, Randy Brown, Nicholas Dalby. 40 years old for Dalby, man. Trap Lord says Dalby ex-alcoholic durability. I think it's also 40-year-old durability, right? We talk about the fact that, you know, a guy like Nicholas Dalby, he's on the wrong end of that 38-year-old curse that we talk about. And this isn't like the UFC 35 and over stat curse or whatever. This is a really large sample size. The book Fightnomics, shout out to Fightnomics, great book. He talked about just how much we see fighters over the age of 38 start to be more liable to suffer KO losses. And you look back, Randy Brown did knock out Muslim Salikov in devastating fashion, right? He was able to put those hands on him. He's got good hand speed. He's a dangerous guy. He's got powerful low kicks. I think sometimes the problem with Randy is he's not assertive enough. He's not really a guy that commits to his offense enough. He's not really a guy that will push the issue enough. But at the end of the day, he's a very skilled fighter. He's talented in all phases. The biggest problem I've always had with Randy is his durability. You know, when you look at Randy, like sometimes just things hurt him. Like he's got long, gangly legs. So guys that throw back low kicks, they can mess with him a little bit. They could throw off his range. They could get to him a little bit. And you look at the times he's been knocked out. I mean, Nico Price, like it's literally an insane knockout. And I know we could give Nico Price a lot of the credit. He's a dangerous guy, powerful in all positions, but like you're getting knocked out from guys throwing hammer fists off their back and, you know, just weird positions, weird situations. That's not the thing I like to see. And also we got to look back at, you know, some of these other fights where Jack Della Maddalena goes down as a submission. He almost punched Randy Brown off his feet, right? Randy got hit so hard, he couldn't really stand up, you know, under his 2 feet there. So for me, I'm kind of surprised that the books are liking this so heavily to go the distance. You know, overall, I think both these guys fight at a pretty violent way. Like, you know, Randy Brown can knock people out. He's got a decent submission game when he goes after it. Nicholas Dalby, he's never been finished, but it's a minor miracle, right? I think he had one fight that was stopped as like a draw or something due to too much blood everywhere from both guys. He's had a bunch of guys that he nearly killed. You know, it nearly got the finish. Couldn't quite get him out of there. But Dalby plays for keeps too, man. He'll go out there and really try and hurt you. You know, try and put you away, try and gas you out as well, try and wrestle you down, try and wear you down. Like Dalby's in it for the long haul. But the thing is, guys, he pulled out of his last booking with an injury. And, you know, he said he would be down to get back in February. Excuse me. All right. He said he would be back in February. And so when I look at a guy like Dalby, you know, at 40 years of age, when you're trying to recover from injuries, that could be tough. And 34 for Randy Brown. He's not a spring chicken, but it's so much younger in terms of the fight years. I feel like Nicholas Dalby's been through it. Every fight that he has is practically a war, and you never know when the bottom's going to fall out on a fighter like that. So if you guys have been watching the show for a long time, you know that we are Dalby respecters. Dalby is a coin respecter. He goes out there and fights hard for your dollar every time. You have to respect that out of an underdog, but you also have to have realistic expectations as guys get older, as guys get injured, as guys get up there in their career. So do I think he's going to phone it in and not give us an honest effort? Absolutely not. But do I think he might be in deep shit in the first round? Yeah, I do think that that's very possible. When you look at the one fight that he had scrubbed from his record against Jesse Ronson, a guy who couldn't help but put a needle in his ass, he got kind of run up and done up in that one, right? In Randy Brown-esque fashion, like hurt him on the feet, followed him down to the ground, got the submission, never let him off the hook. Randy Brown's got one-arm rear naked chokes on his resume. Randy Brown's got the ability to hurt guys on the feet and put him out flat like he did Muslim Salikov, a guy who's a great striker, but getting up there in age. And I think that at the end of the day, Randy Brown got a lot of respect from Brian Battle in his last fight, put him on notice, you know, gave him a lot to think about. And, you know, Brian missed weight for that fight as well. So he's got to go back to the drawing board a little bit there. And, you know, Randy, at this point in his career, guys, he couldn't really be more back against the wall, right? He's a very talented guy, but he needs to go right now. He's 34 years of age. He's lost to some of the best guys already. If he wants to assert himself, he can't be losing to fighters who are 40 years of age right now. So I feel like Randy Brown is going to be highly motivated to go out there and hurt Nicholas Dalby, put hands on him, try and get him out of there, because the longer you're in a Nicholas Dalby fight, the more it trends towards Nicholas Dalby. The more Nicholas Dalby starts working his way in with the action. He is a guy that will huff and puff his way through victory, right? Like he will go through whatever lengths it takes to win. I think you got to hurt this guy, or you got to put him in a very compromised situation, get that tap. Because otherwise, Dalby round 2 and round 3, they're always live, man. He will try and come back on you and try and find a way to finish you. So I kind of see this one being a little bit more violent than the books expect, man. Like you got 2 older guys in the division, but they both know how to throw down. UFC doing documentaries on Randy Brown visiting his hometown. Nothing to show for Dalby. Narrative, boys, narratives. Who do matchmakers want to win? I always think that that's important to consider. Also try and think of the stylistics, but I like when everything lines up the same way. And in this fight, I think you're seeing some sharp movement towards Brown by KO on the lines. I had told my guy, Jewish Better, he had contacted me. We were talking a little bit about that fight. And, I think that we had both seen it a little bit the same way. But basically, I think both guys have a chance to finish here. So I would be looking at some violence a couple different ways in terms of how I'm looking to dissect this fight. And I'll do a little more tape study, a little more due diligence, and also a little bit more close of an Instagram stalk on the Randy Brown side. I went deep on Nicholas Dalby to get some information to find out about that injury. I really like the guy too. He's a very great motivational speaker. You find some cool stuff. If you dig through Dalby, maybe a picture of his ass too. Be very careful. The guy posts some weird shit, but he also posts some very cool shit. So Nicholas Dalby, interesting guy, character from the sport, but Randy Brown, he's a problem as well, man. He's been around for a long time. He's got a solid UFC record in his own right. So I think this is a fight that you don't want to sleep on. I think somebody could go to sleep here, but it'll be fun no matter what. All right. Next up, guys, on the main card, we've got Michel Demoledor Pereira. He's looking to bounce back, guys. He just got absolutely served by Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And Hernandez is a avalanche that's just rolling down the hill on you. And unfortunately, when that gets going, there's just no coming back. And Michel Pereira looked mentally broken as well as physically exhausted very early in that contest. And for me, that's a little bit of a problem. The one thing that you got to like about the guy in a lot of his matchups is that he's huge, right? Like he's a big guy. He's fast. He's awkward. He's got dynamic movement. He's got some power in his hands. He can offer some real skills, but I think that his way to win this fight is pretty similar to how he was going to have to beat Fluffy, which is go out there and establish yourself early, really put this guy on notice, hurt this guy, put the fear in him, because otherwise, man, it's just going to be a tough one. This is a guy in Michel Pereira who has 12 losses. He fought a pretty soft level of competition in his wins. And I think Jake makes a good point here. He says 2 very bad gas tanks. I truly believe, and this is a little bit pre-tape, so I'm going to have to do a little more tape study and due diligence, but I truly believe pre-tape, Abus Magomedov has a slightly better gas tank. So I'm a little bit more inclined towards the Abus side here. I think Abus is dangerous in round 1. He's got flashy kicks to the face. He can snap them off. He can hurt you. He's a big guy, 78-inch reach, 6'2", right? 34 years of age. So he's getting up there in age, but he's got a lot of pro experience inside and outside the UFC. He's already put together 5 fights. Pereira, better body of work in the UFC. There's no doubt about that. But where is his confidence at? He just got completely audited, right? Which for me, I find it hard to confidently get behind somebody after they just got not only beat, they got beat up, they got exposed, they got shown up, they got put in a highlighted position, and it backfired on them. Like it could just mentally break guys depending on how they're built. So this guy's a showman. He likes to go out there and put on a show, but maybe that told him like, yo, this elite level shit, that's not for me. Put me on the main card, but don't put me in that main event against these top 15 guys. And Abus Magomedov, he took the smoke against Sean Strickland, right? Sean's not known for his power and knocking guys out, but that was a motivated Strickland, a guy taking him on short notice. And Abus went in there and he tried to wrestle, and I think he put himself in a cardio deficit and realized, I'm out here for 5 more rounds. I think that was a little bit of self-preservation. Not always what you want to see from a fighter, right? And that chalk, forget about it. But when you're looking at this fight, I thought Bruno Ferreira was going to give him some trouble. Why? Bruno Ferreira's got some good judo. He's got some good wrestling. He's got some, dynamic power. He's a snappy guy. And ultimately, Abus was able to break him down with wrestling, with his own physicality. He's so big for this division that he was just able to get after him and grab a hold of him and make him really wear his weight, his physicality. And it got to him, and Bruno Ferreira, a guy who typically is very hard, to get on top of, to dominate physically, he was able to do that to him. And I think you look at Hulk, what he's put together in the UFC, he's not a bad fighter, man. He's knocking out good guys. He's putting out good guys. He's submitting guys. Hulk has shown you he can fight, man. And Abus was able to go out there and get that win, earn that win in a gritty 3rd round. And for me, that's the kind of thing I haven't always seen from Michel Demoledor Pereira. And frankly, he's been lucky to not be disqualified for doing dumb shit before, right? He did a backflip onto the head of Nico Price. A competent official is, stopping the fight, giving a point in that instance. Like he's just doing fouls. He's doing crazy shit. And I think he's reined a lot of that in, but you saw, it doesn't matter if you rein all that in, if at the end of the day, the skills aren't there to pay the bills. And I think Fluffy Hernandez can beat a lot of guys, but look at the guys that have made it 15-minute decisions with him, right? We've seen Frem, we've seen these other guys that are not elite level guys go 15 minutes, push it with Hernandez, not gas out 100%. And Michel Demoledor Pereira just looked like he was up Schitt's Creek without a paddle early in that contest. And for me, one thing that can wear on you in a grappling match, in a wrestling match, when people get physical is weight. Size, strength, length. And I think Abus Magomedov is going to really be able to mix it up with him there. So do I think it's an easy fight for either guy? No. But do I see a little bit more upside on the underdog here, the bigger man, a little bit, more savvy, I think, in some positions, in Abus Magomedov? Yeah, I think he's got an option there. And Sean Strickland, he was pretty lucky to not give up the back at one point in round 1 against Abus Magomedov. Abus was so close on the back take, and he kind of cheated the finish, as Daniel Cormier would say, and it cost him the position and some of his cardio. But he was able to blast Strickland off his feet, and his fight was what told me that Duplessis was going to be able to beat Strickland and out-wrestle him. So shout out to Abus Magomedov, man. He exposed that hole, and, DDP was able to capitalize. And I think that this weekend, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez showed that if you take this guy down, you put him in vulnerable situations, you make him start doubting himself, you could beat him, right? And I think that Abus Magomedov, I don't think he's going to be as insistent on the ground and pound as Fluffy Hernandez. I think if he could take the choke, he'll take the choke. I think if he could take, ground and pound, he'll take the ground and pound. If he could just lay on this guy, chest pressure on top for 2 rounds, I think he'll do that too. So ultimately, I'm going to pick Abus to get the job done as a short underdog here. I believe Pereira's gas tank will hold up better than Abus. Plus, it's 3 rounds. Abus won't attempt as many takedowns as Hernandez. That's fair, Joshua. Also, sup, Liam? What's up, Joshua? Abus is a bust, a fake daggy. Hey, fair play. We'll have to see, man. I'll do a little more tape study on this one. This is one where I'm mostly going from memory. I'm not a huge Michel Demoledor Pereira guy. I did shout out his sub prop a couple times when it cashed and didn't bet it myself. So if you guys cashed in on that, God bless you for it. But in this fight, that's another thing I might look to click here. If the price is right, the ends by sub, just because I do think these guys might mix it up in the grappling, and I think both of them could make some big mistakes. So I'll see how that one plays out. I remember Michel Pereira beat somebody up and then took their neck in late in the fight. So we'll have to see. Who was that? Was that Saaiman Madaev? Am I thinking of that right? If somebody in the chat wants to correct me, that would be great. But shout out to Jewish Better as well, listening along. My man is beat for the day. Otherwise, we would have brought him on as a guest. But otherwise, we're rocking. We're having a great show, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Thank you all so much for the support. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, you can fire them off in the chat. Join the sharpest chat in the game, or you guys can always fire them off in the comment section down below. After the stream, I try and get back to as many comments as possible every week. If you are positive, respectful, inquisitive, any of these things, I will really try and get back to you. Obviously I steer clear of the negativity, but that's just me, guys. I appreciate the support. God bless each and every one of you guys, and we'll move on to this next fight here. We got Giga Chikadze taking on David Onama. And I got to say, first of all, shout out to Cub Swanson, guys. Killer Cub Swanson. If y'all have been watching, for a while, right? You guys have been watching the UFC product. Y'all know who Cub Swanson is, a top-ranked featherweight for a long time, a guy who was full of creative destruction, a guy who had many main events, awesome fights. I think it was Jeremy Stevens, 5 rounds, banger. So all the love and respect for Cub Swanson and everything he's accomplished in his storied mixed martial arts career. And, I had commented, Giga Chikadze hasn't gotten a finish since he stopped Edson Barboza. I believe that was all the way back in 2023. Maybe it was 2022. This is off the top of my head. I'll have to go back and look. But when you look, Giga, he hasn't been, putting as many guys away, right? He's been struggling a little bit. And he says to me, basically like grabs one of my tweets, Cub Swanson says he's got some new coaches for this one, so watch out. Oh, okay. Now you've piqued my interest, Cub. Now I got to pay a little bit more close attention. What have they taught Giga Chikadze? He nearly finished an anaconda choke or a Darce choke variation. I forget which grip sequence he went with when he was going against Edson Barboza. He was looking for some kind of front headlock choke against Barboza before he got the stoppage with his hands. So maybe they've improved his grappling a little bit. Maybe they've worked on, a good strategy for this fight. I think that this is interesting, right? We got our guy Elijah. Let's see what he has to say in the chat. So Elijah says, this is very straightforward to me. David Onama's 30 years old and polished as well. He can point Giga for 3 rounds and even get a sneaky round 3 finish with Onama's bad cardio. Man, I'm not really, I don't know that I really fully followed that, my brother. Yeah, if you could try that one again, I would be happy to address it, but I think a little bit, it kind of jumbled to me. At first, I thought you were picking Onama. Maybe it was just a typo or an error of some kind, but in any case, guys, we can move back to the breakdown. And when I look at this one, I say, Giga has been in some tough spots in the UFC, right? The Arnold Allen fight, he lost that one. Tough fight to come back to. Arnold's a tough guy, a talented guy. We've seen that if you test the toughness, the mettle of Giga Chikadze, he's a tough guy, man. Calvin Kattar beat him every which way but loose. The guy was not looking for a way out in that fight. He got busted up to the face. He got cut. He got smashed. He was taking damage every round. It was high pace. He stood in there, man. He took the ass whooping like a man, and he's 36 years of age. If he's going to go anywhere in his career, needs this win desperately. But on the other side, man, David Onama's hungry. And he's a dangerous guy. You saw him put Gabriel Santos on the highlight reel. Bam, bam, bam. Shot him full of arrows as well. I think that this kid's got some spunk. He's got some, pizzazz to his game. He's got a little bit of that star-making quality, man. When he knocks people out, he's jumping up on the cage. He's celebrating with his team. He just has some of that energy, that feels like something that people could get behind. And he's 30 years of age. So both these guys have a lot to prove. Both these guys have a lot to bring to the table. When I look at pure wrestling grappling upside, could Giga Chikadze show us something new here? Yeah, he's got Killer Cub, talking about he's got new coaches. He's working on new skills. I'd love to see it. But in terms of what we've seen from these guys, I think David Onama is probably a little bit more dangerous in that phase. I think he's probably a little bit more likely to mix it in, right? Look for his wrestling, look for his takedowns, look for his grappling. Here's the other thing, though. I think this guy, David Onama's got freaking bricks in his hands, man. He can get hurt a little bit on the feet, but when he starts landing, dudes, he can fuck people up as well. Like this guy's got real power. You go back and watch, like Gabriel Santos was not reacting well to the shots that David Onama was landing. Gabriel Benitez looked a little bit, he was looking good at first, right? But David Onama starts hitting him with big shots, right? He starts showing up. He starts looking like he wants the referee to intervene. Dude, he gets hit so hard. He goes down and he was out. Cold, not moving, like bad. And I just think that this guy, David Onama, he's got real power. He's got some durability. He's willing to throw down. The Nate Landwehr fight wasn't a great look, right? He kind of gassed out. You saw some of his limited skills there. You got to remember as well, though, he was a Kraus guy, and he kind of got displaced. I want to go make sure that I know what camp he's out of and everything he's been working on. But ultimately, for me, this feels like an interesting fight. A fight that could get violent, right? A fight where these guys could get after it. But, I was a little disappointed by the level of output that we saw from Giga in his last fight. Let me go back and check what the stat line says, so I'm not just going based off my memory and my subjective gut level opinion. Both these guys have positive striking differentials, but you've got David Onama throwing more volume, getting hit a little bit more. He's got higher accuracy. He's got worse defense. He's got more takedowns per 15 minutes and more submission attempts per 15 minutes. So David Onama is checking some of those boxes. Now we go back to Giga Chikadze. Guys, just 38 significant strikes over 15 minutes against Arnold Allen. Frankly, that's not good enough, right? That's simply not going to get the job done at this level. 65 against Alex Caceres. Didn't run away with it there, guys. Went super close decision with Alex Caceres. Not a super great look for me. Calvin Kattar, he landed 128. He got hit with 144, gave up 2 takedowns, a submission attempt, and a knockdown. Not great. So he's got good wins over Edson Barbosa, Cub Swanson, decent win over Omar Morales, questionable win over Jamal Emmers. You look at his body of work, it's really not that substantive in the UFC. No disrespect. The Caceres win, the Barbosa win, the Cub Swanson win, you take nothing away from those. Everything else is just okay. And for me, you look at David Onama on the other side. He's 5-2 in the UFC. He beat JSP, although he missed weight for that fight. He beat Roberto Romero. They both traded knockdowns in that fight. He beat Gabriel Santos. He knocked him out. He lost to Nate Landwehr, fight of the night, crazy war. He got hurt a little bit too much in that fight. The Garrett Armfield fight, he absolutely, submitted him, right? And he fought Armfield twice. He's a little bit bigger, had some advantages there. Lost to Mason Jones. That result didn't age well, but he hurt Mason Jones. He had Mason Jones in doubt there. That was his first fight in the UFC. So what has this guy really shown us? He's shown us he shows up to fight. He's a tough guy. He's hard to put away. He's got a lot of heart. He's got some decent skills. He can kickbox. He can mix in the grappling. I don't think that David Onama is a punk anywhere. And you look, he's got 7 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. He's 2-2 in fights that go the distance. So I think that he's got a decent chance here. The danger factor is when you're getting hurt by Roberto Romero, right? Giga Chikadze can put one of these big kicks on you and put you down for the count, right? He's got the dangerous Giga kick. He's got also kicks that he brings to all levels of the body. You watch the Jamie Simmons fight. He uses low kicks to set the reaction. He uses the middle kick to get you to bring your hands down. Then he head kicks you. So he can kick at all levels of the body. He's a dangerous fighter, but his health has been a concern. His level of activity has been a concern. And ultimately, I think David Onama has a similar body of work in the UFC. He's a little bit younger. So for me, he doesn't have his same quality wins, no doubt about that. But I think that when you look at where these guys are trending, I think David Onama is trending in the right direction. All right, we'll have to wait and see on that one, guys. Next up, we've got a co-main event banger. And by banger, I mean we've got a massive favorite once again. Zhang Mingyang is about minus 500 to take on Anthony Smith in his seeming retirement contest. 36 years of age for Anthony Smith. The guy has had more than 50 professional fights. All you can do is say thank you, Anthony Smith, for the memories. Guy's been out there for a long time, putting it on the line. A lot of his early wins in the UFC, guys, were devastating. And I don't mean the very earliest. I mean some of the run that he went on at light heavyweight and middleweight and whatever, where he's knocking out Rashad Evans and some of my heroes, right? Guys I loved in MMA, he's putting them down. So you got to say, hey, hats off to Anthony Smith, man. Did what he needed to do. Lionheart Anthony Smith found ways to win. The Vitor Petrino fight, I kept telling everybody, I was like, Vitor Petrino is an accident waiting to happen. I just didn't think it would be Anthony Smith. And Anthony Smith really showed that he was able to go out there and not only connect with him on the feet, but also put him away using his grappling. Anthony Smith is a very good grappler. If I was to get invested in the Anthony Smith cause this week, I think I would be playing Anthony Smith by submission just because I think that's the untested part of Zhang Mingyang's game where he could still have big vulnerabilities. On the feet, I think Zhang Mingyang has massive advantages here. I think he's the faster guy. I think he's the more durable guy. I think he's the more dangerous guy. And I think he's the more assertive guy. And all those things do not portend good results for Anthony Smith if this fight is to stay on the feet. So Anthony has experience. He's not a bad kickboxer, but he's become a lot more susceptible to damage, both to the legs, to the head, to the body over the course of his career. A lot of the miles have added up. He's been getting hurt badly in a lot of these fights. He's been having bad moments, bad signs, slowing down, regression of reaction time and a lot of other things. But does he still find ways to win? Yes. Do I think he's going to do it against this guy? I do not. I think Zhang Minyang is a science experiment. I think that this guy is very strong physically. I think the only way he loses here is by submission. I think he's probably going to have a very good chance to knock out Anthony Smith in the first 2 frames here. So give me Zhang Minyang by knockout as the pick. But again, if I'm to get involved with Anthony Smith, I'd click small on the money line, maybe click small on the sub and hope he's able to spring something in his last fight. But I think the UFC booked this because Zhang Minyang is on their radar as a potential future star in this division. He's got knockout power. He's got really cool highlight reel finishes, and he represents a market that they want to push to. So when you have a mixed martial arts industry, a lot of times they try and send people out, unfortunately, face down and embarrassed, right? And I think that's kind of what you're looking forward to here, unfortunately. A guy in Anthony Smith is being let out the door, and they're trying to prop up a new guy with his reputation. And that's a sad part of the business. It's a reality of the business. You see Dominic Reyes also just jumped over Anthony Smith to try and build up his career and his reputation once again. And again, could I see a path? Yeah, there's a path to victory for Anthony Smith, but do I see the fire, the hunger, the motivation? I do not. And Zhang Minyang, I'll just remind people, was a plus 450 underdog against Tuco Tokos. People were not expecting much of this guy on road to UFC, and he walked forward and absolutely killed that guy, embarrassed him, just destroyed him with offense. Like, again, no disrespect. It's just trying to be observant of reality. He destroyed him, man. Brutal knockout, like scary knockout. This guy Zhang Minyang, his knockout reel is scary. So when you talk about things that get overpriced in the MMA market, KO1s can definitely be up there. But I think when you talk about the physicality, the athleticism, there's a couple boxes that this guy's checking. And right now he's 25 years of age. Or 26, excuse me. Anthony Smith, 36 years of age at the end of his career. Zhang Minyang's just getting into his UFC career. So for me, I feel like this is Zhang Minyang's fight to lose. But if Anthony Smith gets the job done, don't be surprised if it's a triangle choke. Don't be surprised if it's a rear naked choke. I think Lionheart could always have one more in the tank, go out there, jump on this kid's back, and find a finish. But if he doesn't do that, I just don't think he could take the shots coming from this kid. I truly don't. All right, guys. Next up, it's the main event of the evening, the one that's been on your mind. 2 top welterweight contenders looking to stamp themselves as people to watch for title fight opportunities moving forward. Machado Garry, just 1 fight separated from the loss against Shavkat Rakhmonov. He had a great opportunity to submit him in the 5th round, unable to capitalize on that opportunity. But alas, the Irishman is back in a main event. He's 27 years of age. The world is still in front of him. He's 6'3". He's got a 74.5-inch reach, and he's taking on Carlos Prates, a 31-year-old Brazilian, out of the esteemed Fighting Nerds camp. I've been talking about the Fighting Nerds since Caio Barajo exploded on the scene and started making me coins. And now they have everybody on notice, right? These guys are winning a lot of fights. They're clearly very skilled. They're clearly very talented. They're aggressive. They know how to win. They know how to be tacticians. But this is the biggest spot of Carlos Prates' career. He's stepping up for a 5-round main event. He's got a tough challenge in front of him in Machado Garry, who's 8-1 in the UFC. We've got Carlos Prates, who's 4-0 in the UFC. However, he has more professional experience than Ian Garry, albeit outside of the UFC. What's interesting to me, what jumped off the paper right away, is you have one guy in this fight who I believe is 18-5 career to the inside the distance prop, and that is Carlos Prates, right? Carlos Prates has 18 wins inside the distance, but he has been finished 5 times as a professional. On the other side, you have Ian Garry. He's 8-0 in fights that end inside the distance. This man has never been put away. So people question his durability. Our guy Elijah in the chat says Gary's durability makes his minus 125 price so appealing. Oh, interesting. What upside does Prates have? He's at his hypothetical peak. Very interesting. Garry by sub finally, or still cursed, says Moist. It's very fascinating. When I look at this fight, my gut instinct is that Ian Garry will win this fight. And I'll explain to you why. First of all, Carlos Prates, for me, feels like one of the most dangerous fighters in the division. And that's still going to be the case, right? Ian Garry, in order to win this fight, is going to have to mind his P's and Q's. There were times against MVP, he got caught with clean shots. And it could have put him down, right? It could have been a serious problem. There were times against Shavkat, he got caught with clean shots, and it could have been a problem. It could have been, serious, right? So Ian's taken some tough shots on the chin in the UFC, but so far, guys have not been able to put him away, right? Guys have been able to hurt him. No doubt about that. Some guys have been able to touch him on the chin. They've been able to hurt him. But this guy's got good recoverability. He's tough as shit, and he finds a way to win. If you could say anything about a guy who's 15-1 as a professional, against a pretty tough level of opposition, I think he finds ways to win, right? And against Shavkat Rakhmonov, he nearly did the same thing, right? Popping out on his back, finding ways to compete in that fight, make it awkward for him. And when I look at this fight, Carlos Prates, he's a sensational striker when it comes to delivering high amplitude offense that gets the job done in one, right? He lands big shots that hurt people. He sets traps. He stays poised. Where's the fight that you have to point to where he did the worst in the UFC? I think that that's pretty obvious, right? The Trevin Giles fight. Trevin Giles, what went wrong for Carlos Prates in that fight? I would say a number of things. Number one, the jab was functioning for Trevin Giles at points in that fight, but more importantly, he was getting off with low kicks. So early in the contest, Trevin Giles basically sprints at him, starts establishing himself with low kicks, and then he starts putting the jab out there a little bit, right? He starts blitzing in with 3 and 4 piece combinations and backing Prates up. In round 2, he's able to back him up to the fence. He's able to start working along the clinch. He's able to start wrestling him a little bit. And obviously, guys, Trevin Giles is just not a very elite wrestler or grappler. He's a good boxer. He's got decent fundamental offensive jiu-jitsu, but he's got some flaws in his game as well, right? He's not a lights out grappler by any means. So we've definitely seen some up and down moments from Trevin Giles. And Carlos Prates, when you look for where he was frustrated, he's never frustrated when he's at striking range, right? He's very comfortable there. He's very happy there. But he was getting pushed into the fence and he was getting kneed a little bit in the thigh. And he started to have some looks on his face that I didn't love. He started to give some reactions I wasn't thrilled about. And then he got back to space and he killed Trevin Giles shortly thereafter with a big punch and looked, massive favorite hindsight. It's like, I thought he lost the first round to Trevin Giles. And I thought that when you look back at that fight, it did show some of the flaws to his game. He could be a little bit patient at times. He could be a little bit low volume at times, kind of let his opponent get ahead on the strike count. So when I look at this fight, I say to myself, Ian Garry could get hurt. He could get clipped. He could get knocked out. That is, in my opinion, the way he loses this fight. But I think that Ian Garry has more paths to winning the fight. When you look at how he could win, I think number one, Carlos Prates, for as tough as he is, as durable as he's shown himself to be, having a ton of different striking fights, we've also seen him get busted up a little bit. Like, if you guys go back and watch that Trevin Giles fight, go look at his face at the end of the fight. My man's got some swelling on one half of his face. My man was taking some damage. He took some damage to his leg. He took some damage to his face and his eye. And I think that when you look back at that, there's some things that Ian Garry can build on there. He can go out there and try and kick this guy's leg. He can go out there and try and push him against the fence. He can go out there and try and knee him in the thigh. He can go out there and try and take some wind out of his sails. And I think that would be a really good idea. Also, if he studied him well, I think you'll see more blitzing combinations from Ian Garry in this fight because Carlos Prates likes to have pretty managed range. He likes to know you're there, I'm here, I touch, I make sure you're lined up, boom, big knee. I make sure you're lined up, boom, huge punch. But a lot of it takes some time. It takes some setup. It takes some trap. It takes some, setting the table. And all that takes time. And while you're letting time go by, somebody else could be working. So we kind of have seen a lot of fighters where, they've got good skills, but they let somebody outwork them. I think that that's a little bit what happened to Ian Garry when he took on Shavkat Rakhmonov. But Shavkat Rakhmonov is another guy that doesn't lose fights, that finds ways to win, that has been in these tough, dirty, gritty fights and done it. And Carlos Prates, he doesn't have that undefeated record. And you can talk about undefeated records and the negative implications therein. Ian Garry lost that undefeated record, but he didn't lose his confidence at all. He still looks at that picture every day and knows, I could have submitted this guy and it's on me. I blew it. So when I look at what Ian Garry is bringing to the table in this fight, I think he's extremely confident. I think unlike a lot of opponents for Carlos Prates, he can match some of the length, the physical dynamics that Prates brings to the table. And I truly believe that cigarette cardio does not affect you when you're having 3-round fights against guys that you're better than. But when you're having a 5-round fight against another guy who's at the top of the division, it could come back to bite you. It could be the kind of thing that weighs on your mindset. Chael Sonnen has talked about fighters aren't afraid to fight other guys, right? They're not afraid to go out there and scrap. Nobody's afraid to get hit, right? They're professional fighters. What are they really afraid of? They're afraid of being too tired to keep pressing. So why does Carlos Prates not throw that much? Maybe it's because he doesn't want to put too much out there and not have enough left to give. And if Ian Garry has a good game plan where he comes out there and says, instead of trying to make this about bravado and ego, I push this guy back against the fence. I hold on to him in double underhooks. I make him work with me, grapple with me, pummel with me along the fence line. I land some short shots to the body. I chip away with knees to the thigh. I make this guy suffer, and I put some doubt in his mind. That seems like a really good way to beat Carlos Prates. That seems like the ideal path. So for me, if I was in his corner, that's what I'm telling Ian Garry to do. When I'm looking for favorites, when I'm looking for guys that I want to click on, right, in terms of like what I need, I want to know they're going to fight hard for my money. I truly believe that Ian Garry is going to do that. I want to know that they have skills in multiple positions, ideally, right? And I think that, what does that mean? Well, if I have jiu-jitsu but I can't wrestle, I don't really have skills in multiple positions. I have skills in one position. Hopefully it gets there, right? I think Ian Garry has good ability to mix in some takedowns when he needs them. We saw that opportunistic takedown back take against MVP. We saw that opportunistic takedown back take against Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think all of that is pretty good. When I think about what does Ian Garry bring to the table, the guy has come near missing on a bunch of submission attempts. Does it mean he's going to get it this time? Who knows? But what I do know is that he's going to get one eventually. The guy is not a bad grappler. He's got Charles Oliveira in his corner last time out. Like, the guy works with a good camp. The guy has been all around the world. He's trained with Shavkat, by the way. And I think that part of the familiarity there, part of the mirror match there, part of the tricks from Ian Garry not working against Shavkat is because he's seen them before. And Carlos Prates is going to have to make these reads. He comes from a great camp. He's going to be well-schooled and well-prepared. I believe all those things. But at the highest level of the game, I think it's about small adjustments. I think it's about who could be smarter, who could be savvier, who has more paths to victory. And ultimately, I think it's Ian Garry. So I'm Irish as shit. Biases acknowledged up front. I'll always let you know where I'm at. But I try not to be biased about my takes, right? I try and acknowledge. I said last time out, Shavkat could definitely finish Ian Garry, but I just don't think he's a pushover. I didn't think he was going to go out there and get punked by Shavkat. I didn't think he had no chance, like some people were saying. And he fought to a somewhat competitive decision where I think you could argue he won 2 rounds, right? The 5th round, I think it was the 3rd round as well. Ian Garry went out there and made a great account of himself. Did he win the fight? He did not. But Carlos Prates, he hasn't proven that he's a UFC level champion yet either, right? He's 4-0, 4 knockouts against guys that he's supposed to beat. Now this is the one where he's stepping up, right? He went from being a big favorite in a lot of these contests to being a slight underdog. And Ian Garry, he's used to being the favorite. Everybody's had high expectations of this guy from the very beginning, and he's done nothing but deliver and then over-deliver when he was a big underdog against Shavkat. So for me, I think that this is going to be a great fight. I think both guys have a chance to win it. I have nothing but respect for Carlos Prates, his game, everything he brings to the table. I think he's a dangerous guy, but I think that this is where the rubber meets the road for him. I think this is going to be his first UFC loss. I think Ian Garry, whether it's round 3, 4, 5, or the decision, he's going to find a way to wear this guy down, make him feel the weight, make him feel the pressure, make him feel the fact that he's got to go out there for 5 rounds. I think he's going to put some doubt in his mind, and I think he's going to find a way to win the fight. So give me the Irishman, grit and guillotines, the Irish-American way, baby. Shout out to Sean Brady. He set the standard, went over to England, let him know what time it is, and that was an Irish-American variety. Now we've got the Irish-Brazilian variety. Ian Machado Garry, can he do it for the Irish? Can he do it for the Dubs? Can he do it, for all the people out there? Let's see if he can, but I'll tell you what, I'll take my hat off to Carlos Prates if he gets it done. I've had nothing but respect for this guy since he made it to the UFC. I think he's a dangerous guy. But I think that, again, this for me is where the rubber meets the road. So great fight, great matchmaking. I'm excited to hear what you guys think about it. Tell me what you guys got going on from a betting standpoint, from a question standpoint, any fight you're looking forward to the most. Let me know in the comment section down below. I truly appreciate it. I wanted to just say, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to plug real quick my interview that I did with Terrence Saturn. This guy is the A1 flyweight combat champion, and I really think that you guys will enjoy the interview. If you don't mind, as a personal little support for me, guys. Go check that out and make sure that you show some love and support to Terrence Saturn. Really appreciated having him as a guest on the program. Cool guy. Cool interview, in my opinion. So hopefully we'll be doing more content like that on the channel going forward. My hair's a mess. The time is getting late here on the East Coast, 2:17 a.m. local time, but we did it solo. We found a way to get the show out, and we will be right back to work to try and get you guys something with a guest before the week is all said and done. I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you guys are looking for more from me, I do put out all my research, all my write-ups, all my information, all the previous write-ups and research that I've done, normally 4 to 5 to 6 pages worth of notes. And I'm talking about, that you could individually click through. Sometimes I have profiles with 10 and 15 pages of notes, right? Depending on the fighter. So ultimately, it's a lot of information. If you're a nerd like me, it'll be interesting to you. If you're not, no worries there. But essentially, there's always more that you can get from me down in the information box below if you're looking for it. But otherwise, guys, all the stuff that I do on this channel, always be free. Peace, love, and chicken grease. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for the support. God bless. I hope that you guys enjoy these fights. Come back next time. We're going to have all the same fun again. Thanks, everybody.